Before starting this episode, I want to give a disclaimer that John and I do discuss things like restrictive eating, excessive cardio, and negative body image. So if any of these topics are triggering to you, I would encourage you to skip this episode and listen to another one. And remember that your appearance is the least interesting thing about you. With that being said, let's get into the episode.
Before getting the surgery, the doctor told me I had to lose as much body fat as I could. I just kept gaining weight, and then I got to a point where I wasn't happy, I didn't feel healthy, and I needed a change. This might be the big hot take that you're definitely not gonna like.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Always Active podcast, the show that empowers you to lead an active lifestyle. I'm your host, Katie.
And I'm John.
And in this episode, I'll be interviewing my boyfriend, John, about his fitness journey, including his experience growing up as a competitive athlete, playing varsity baseball in university, and undergoing a 60-pound weight loss during lockdown, along with his current fitness routine. And after the interview, we will be sharing our fitness hot takes. So I'm excited to have our first ever guest on the podcast, and my plan going forward is to do lots of guest episodes. The name of this podcast is Always Active because I want to show all different perspectives and fitness journeys, not just mine. So John brings an inspiring story and a unique perspective, and I'm excited for this interview. So John, welcome to the Always Active podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. And how does it feel to be the first guest?
Honored to be the first guest.
You're honored.
Honored.
Well, I'm glad you're honored. And do you know what I normally say at the end of the intro and before we dive into the segments?
Let's get ready to move.
Pretty close. So without further ado, let's get psyched to move. So today we're going to start by going through our usual segments together before diving into the interview. Kicking things off with this week's Psych Spotlight. The study that I'll be focusing on this week was interested in understanding the factors that impact weight loss success for the participants that were in the study. And the main takeaway was that multiple attempts are likely needed in order to ensure long-term weight loss success. The study shared that many people often struggle with maintaining long-term weight loss, and weight cycling is common, which means regaining weight after losing it. And these failed weight loss attempts are usually seen as a lack of willpower. But the study suggested that we actually need to reframe these failed attempts and instead view them as practice and a necessary learning experience. And the study found that greater frequency of past weight loss was actually associated with greater weight loss in the clinic where they were doing their study. Now, this study is specific to the context of weight loss, but it can actually be applied to other behaviors. If we draw on a theory called the trans-theoretical model of health behavior change, this theory suggests that relapse is a common part of adopting a new behavior. And the theory also suggests that repeated attempts at a new behavior are often needed before long-term adoption can occur. And personally, I can think of many examples of times that I've attempted to try a new behavior and failed, such as with meal planning, waking up early, and limiting my screen time. These are all things that I continue to struggle with to this day. And these are things where I've tried to make a behavior change and it lasts for a little while, but then I often fall off track. And just because we develop a habit, for example, if you develop the habit of exercise, it doesn't mean it's fixed and it's going to stick with you for the rest of your life. We're almost guaranteed to fall off at some point. But the fact that you got off track doesn't take away from the effort that you put in. And so overall, like this study suggests, these failures are necessary learning experiences in order to lead to success long term. So John, based on this study and the key takeaways that I shared, I'm interested to hear what your thoughts are.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like, it's pretty much the same as what I went through. Yeah, like my fitness journey was different stages, like when I was younger, and then like I had different weight loss moments. So I went, lost the weight, put it back on, lost it again, slowly putting it back on, and now trying to lose it again. So like, I agree.
Okay, cool. And that's kind of why I picked this study, because it focuses on weight loss specifically. And I know that's something that we'll be diving into when it comes to your journey. So yeah, interesting to hear that you can relate to it and it resonates with me too. So next up, we'll move on to the movement mindset. And this week's mindset is to do what works for you. Now, the reason I am kind of prefacing this episode with this mindset is because once we dive into the hot takes, you'll see that both John and I might have some pretty unpopular opinions and you may disagree with them. And if you do disagree with them, that's totally fine. You do you. And at the end of the day, that's what's going to work best. But there's kind of two parts to this when thinking about the mindset of doing what works for you. First, we need to understand that there's a lot of garbage and extreme opinions in the health and fitness space, which is kind of what inspired our hot takes. But this either or extreme opinion approach usually isn't the best. And so we need to be able to think critically and kind of filter out the nonsense when taking in this information. And the best way to go about doing this would also be to seek out information from credible experts. So once you have this information, you've kind of thought about it critically, the next step is to do what works for you. We're all different, and different things will work for different people. So you need to find what suits you best, and that's often through a process of trial and error. And if you take this approach by doing what works best for you, it will probably help you to be more successful on your health and fitness journey. So John, what do you think of this mindset?
I agree with it. Everyone has a different schedule, everyone has a different background in fitness, and people are going to go about their fitness lifestyle or active lifestyle in a different way based off of their schedule. So it's like whatever you can do to be active and to, be healthy and
make it work.
Make it work, yeah. You gotta make it work.
Make it work with your unique schedule and circumstances.
Yeah.
All right, so now the part you've all been waiting for. Moving on to the actual interview. So to start off, John, tell me about your fitness journey.
So growing up, I always loved playing all sports, whether it was basketball with the other kids on the street. I liked playing football, I liked playing soccer, and just all school sports, volleyball, track, cross country. I pretty much was always super active, and even like outside of sports too. My street growing up had tons of kids, so we were always outside running around, playing more sports. But competitive sports wise, I started playing hockey and baseball when I was 4. I continued playing hockey till the end of high school, so 18, and then I continued playing baseball on to university and played 3 years there.
And what was that transition like, going from being a teenager playing competitive sports and moving into varsity sports?
I had a unique route because the team in my area didn't have a team for 17 and 18-year-olds, and I ended up playing junior, which is 19 to 21. I started playing that when I was 17, so I was around the older guys who were already playing in university, so I kind of knew what the day-to-day was and what went into being a varsity athlete, so the transition wasn't as hard as I thought.
So you already kind of had a look into that lifestyle based on the other teammates and what they told you.
Yeah.
So moving on, can you expand a little bit on the next stage of your fitness journey?
When I got to university, my fitness journey really changed because in high school I never really had like a full fitness routine. Like I only weightlifting was in gym class, and my fitness was going for a run or playing whatever sports that I was playing. I didn't really do much weight training. But once I got to university, we would have team lifts, and we did a lot of running for baseball. And like everyone thinks baseball, nobody runs and anything like that. I don't know if any of the other universities ran as much as we did, but we ran a ton. My coach wanted everyone in good shape, so we did a ton of running, and I lost a ton. Like the first couple months at school, I lost at least 10 pounds. And another big important thing that happened too was I got some amazing roommates who really taught me how to work out, because I lived with 2 football players and I lived with a rugby player. They all knew how to lift. They were all strong. They came from schools that they did a lot of weightlifting, and they taught how to power lift and just how to actually work out properly, which my school had, but I never really took advantage of. And also just having a workout partner that was stronger than I was. So it gave me something to motivate me. It's like, okay, I want to just lift as much as him just so I can keep up.
Mm-hmm. I know we've talked about that before, that was a big entry point into weightlifting for you, was having those people who are more experienced, stronger than you, and kind of that competition element has been really important.
Yeah, I just wanted to keep up. And I also never pushed myself because I never really had many workout partners to like spot me. So growing up, I kind of capped myself, and I didn't realize how strong I was until I actually pushed myself with the higher weights.
That's awesome that having those gym buddies is what was able to take you to the next level.
Yeah, and even cardio too. Like cardio, prioritizing core. Like we did core at the end of every workout, and it, you know, always had to do core at the end regardless of how tired we were, and we just had to do it.
Because everyone skips core otherwise,
everyone
right?
skips core, everyone skips cardio. So, but it was really good, and what also motivated me too was because they were eating very well, I didn't want to be the outsider, and that kind of motivated me to do the same.
So that accountability piece with your roommates was important too.
Yeah.
So were there any other kind of important milestones in your fitness journey around this point?
So growing up, I had gynecomastia, and essentially what it was is I had a lot of excess tissue in my chest, and regardless of how much weight I lost or how much exercise I did, like I wasn't going to lose that tissue, so it had to have been removed by surgery. So in that first year, I went to go get the surgery, but before getting the surgery, the doctor told me I had to lose as much body fat as I could, just so the surgery went a lot easier and smoother, and all they had to take out was the tissue and not a lot of fat. So that first year before my surgery, I lost 10 to 15 pounds, maybe a little bit more, and I was in really good shape. And then after getting the surgery, kind of fell off a little bit more and started gaining weight again, just because a healthy lifestyle wasn't as there, and I wasn't as motivated either because I figured the surgery was done and I was just going to be okay.
So the surgery kind of motivated you for a while, but then once that was over, you fell off track.
Yeah,
just because the motivation wasn't there anymore.
Yeah, just the motivation itself, or just like the hard deadline of a motivation was gone.
I think that's a pretty practical tip that people can actually take away from this too, is sometimes setting some kind of deadline or having maybe some kind of event to lead up to. Like, let's say there's a marathon you have scheduled. You have to train before you go to the marathon. So kind of similar idea, like having that event or having that deadline is going to motivate you for that period of time.
Yeah, and even if you don't hit that milestone, you're making at least some progress.
Absolutely. And that's also sometimes actually just taking the action and implementing those habits is more important than that actual end goal, because it will come eventually regardless of the arbitrary deadline that you're setting. So you started to explain a little bit that after this period you began to gain a little bit of weight. Can you tell me a little bit more about what that was like?
Well, I gained weight after the surgery, but then I gained most of my weight after I was done playing baseball in university. Just because, like, throughout the 3 years, you know, during the season, we were practicing 3 or 4 days a week, had 4 games on weekends. And then after the season was over, we would have indoor training once or twice a week. So, like, I was always keeping busy, and we'd have the team lifts and stuff like that. But once I wasn't on the team anymore, it was just kind of up to me to keep myself accountable. I just didn't really do anything. And also, I also just started eating more. I was just eating a ton. So I just kept gaining weight. And then I got to a point where I wasn't happy. I didn't feel healthy. And I needed a change. Another thing that impacted my weight gain after baseball was the injury to my shoulder. I had an impingement in my shoulder, which I had full mobility and everything. It just hurt a lot. And if I did any excessive force with it, it just really hurt. So it did restrict me from working out, but I still could have done more. But I just used it as an excuse to not go and be active and work out. And I think it happens to a lot of athletes too who get hurt, that you just kind of get out of your routine of being super active and stuff, and just, I don't want to say give up, but just not be as motivated to be yourself. So that was a big thing, because I kept eating, and I'm like, oh, I can't work out, my shoulder's killing me. And that was, that's where it all kind of started.
Yeah, I think that's a common experience that a lot of not only athletes have, but anyone who faces some kind of injury, it'll hold you back for sure. But yeah, I think between those two things of just stopping playing varsity sports as well as the injury, I can totally see how that would be demotivating and lead you to stop being quite as active as you were before.
Yeah.
So now at this point in your journey, you've put on this weight. You said you're not feeling quite as confident. You don't feel like you're at a healthy body weight anymore. What did your weight loss journey look like?
It started during COVID, actually. So right before the lockdown, I went to visit my old roommates at school, and we had a fun weekend, but ate way too much and got on the scale, and I was really, really shocked on what I saw, and I just said, like, enough is enough. And that's where the tipping point was. And then once COVID started, I figured, I'm like, you know what, if I'm going to be at home doing nothing, I might as well lose all this weight. So I think the biggest thing was a Peloton. My parents got a Peloton at Christmas time, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to start doing these spin classes. I heard that they're really tough, and you sweat a ton. So I was doing a spin class every day and weight training after, because I just had nothing to do. And then that was primarily during the winter time. And then once the summer hit, I was able to go outside and go swimming in my pool, go to the driving range, go golfing, and I was just nonstop outside and just doing whatever to stay active. But the most important thing was the Peloton, because
Not sponsored.
Yeah.
Not sponsored by Peloton.
If they want to sponsor me, I'm totally fine
Yeah.
with that. But when I was gaining all my weight, I completely neglected cardio, and that the Peloton just gave me the cardio that I needed. And just trying to push myself against the other people that were in the class and trying to get, top 50, top 100. So yeah, that was the most important thing, was the Peloton.
And that competition element again.
Yes, and the competition
There's
element.
a theme here.
Yes. And the other thing that happened during COVID and during that fitness journey was I got into yoga and Pilates. So my mom, for Christmas one year, she's like, I don't want you guys to get me a gift. Someone just come to yoga with me. So I said, okay, I'll come to yoga. I'll come and check it out. And I started going to hot yoga classes with her, and I really enjoyed it because it was just something new to me. I never thought of it as being a big workout thing, because I always thought weight training and athletic stuff. But yoga is really tough. Pilates is really tough. And I really enjoyed it, and I liked building up to something new and trying to master something new. Mm-hmm. And I also like to compete against other people in the class. So.
Of course you do. Actually, within maybe the first couple weeks of John and I texting each other, he said one time, okay, I'll talk to you later. I got to go to yoga with my mom. And that's when I knew he was the one.
Yeah. So also another big part of my weight loss was drastically changing my diet. I don't think it was the best way to go about it. I don't really recommend it, but it just worked for me. I was pretty restrictive with my diet. Like, I'm not gonna lie, there were a couple of hungry nights and having to get up in the middle of the night to go get something in the fridge because I just felt terrible. But just honestly, just the biggest thing was just cutting down on what I was eating. Like, instead of having 2 burgers at dinner, I cut it down to 1. But the one thing I still do today is I always have a salad for lunch. I always try to have a salad for lunch. I literally just took the leftover meat we had from the night before, threw it in a salad, and that was lunch. Pretty easy, pretty efficient, so it was easy to keep going.
John's signature salads.
Signature salads. Another thing that happened during COVID was I got into running. So a friend of mine, she was talking to this guy, and she was saying that, this guy's a marathon runner, and she wanted to have more to relate to him with. So she wanted to get into running, and I was in the middle of my weight loss journey. I'm like, sure, I'll come on runs with you. So I got into running once or twice a week, and I also had to keep up with her. It was kind of a competition with her as well, because I think on our first run, I started cramping up and she just kind of left me behind. So I'm like, okay, I got to push it here.
Gotta do better.
I got to do better. And yeah, so that was another big thing. And I enjoy running, even though my knees kind of hurt sometimes, but gonna push through and get better. But yeah, that was another big thing. Side note, that was another thing during the big fitness journey, changing kind of the way that I drank too. Like, I still went out with my friends, but I just stuck to alcohols that were very low calorie. So a healthier way of drinking was another big part of it too.
So you walked us through your whole weight loss journey. Now, what does your current fitness routine look like?
My current routine is I'm trying to find a routine again. Just work has been different, so I'm just trying to find a new routine. I did put on a little bit of weight since my big weight loss. I did put on some more muscle and did get stronger again, but right now I want to get a little bit more lean. So right now I'm trying to go to the gym 2-3 times a week. I played hockey this year. I'm currently in a touch football league. I just started my volleyball league, and at the end of the month I'm going to be starting my soccer league and my softball league. So just a lot of men's league sports that are going to be going on, and then just going to the gym and also going to yoga. So trying to sprinkle in wherever I can.
Yeah, so you kind of have a similar fitness routine to me in the sense that we like doing a little bit of everything. We got our yoga that we do together, the gym workouts, and then you more so sports. But yeah, it's kind of cool that John also encompasses the always active mentality in that way.
Mm-hmm.
So what do your gym workouts look like right now?
My gym workouts have stayed the same since I started working out in university, just the same type of body part days. I would always do back and bis one day, chest and tris, legs, and then I would do shoulders and triceps again. But my shoulder day is more of kind of a rehab day. I don't go super heavy on my shoulder. It's more so doing specific exercises that one of my best friends, who I'm lucky is a chiropractor and is helping me out with my knees and shoulder and
all your aches and pains.
Every ache and pain that I have, and there's a ton. So I'm lucky that him and his girlfriend are giving me great exercise and great tips on.
Because she's a physio.
And she's a physiotherapist, so how to fix my body. So shout out to them. I think the biggest thing that is different from previous years is the fact that I'm stretching before I work out. I would stretch at team lifts. I wouldn't stretch when I worked out on my own. And since my injury, that's the most important thing that my friend has told me to do. He's like, you need to stretch because that's how you get hurt. And I feel like most kids, when they're young, they just feel like they're invincible. You don't need to stretch. You don't need to stretch after the game too, which I think is maybe more important. Just the importance of stretching. So now I have my shoulder stretching routine before every workout, and that's honestly been the most important that I've taken into my current routine. And my shoulder feels great now, which is nice to finally happen.
Yay.
Yeah.
I can totally relate to that. Growing up playing soccer, we took warming up very seriously because we had to, but as soon as practice or the game was over, we were out of there. There was no stretching. And now I'm a big stretching advocate. Make sure you do your warm up and cool down.
Yeah. Another thing with my new routine is that I'm trying new things with regards to the exercises I put in my workout. Just because I felt like my old workouts were getting very stale and repetitive, and it just wasn't as fun anymore. So now just trying new things and seeing what the other people in the gym are doing around me and seeing which ones I like and incorporating them in my workout.
So that variety component.
Variety is very important. I need the variety or else it just gets boring.
Okay, so now that you've told us about your fitness journey, I'm going to ask you a few more questions that are a little bit more specific. Some of these are questions that I have, and some of them are questions that the audience submitted for you. So the first question I have is, what was your experience like playing varsity baseball, and how did being a varsity baseball player impact your health and fitness habits?
I think it was really impactful because it gave me a way of being active that I never really had before. And it kind of forced me to be healthier and be, I guess, more regimented. That I just wanted to keep my spot. I wanted to keep my starting spot, and I just had to work hard. And always having the motivation from my teammates around me and just using it to stay on track.
And for anyone out there who might be interested in playing varsity sports, can you give us a little look into what maybe a day in the life would be like?
So Canadian baseball is not as big as the NCAA, so it's not as like the day-to-day is not like you would see if you look at someone on a D1 college team.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit more chill. But day to day would be go to class and stuff during the day. Our day realistically didn't start until practice at 5, and we'd have practice 3 times a week, and we would do workouts on whatever night we didn't have practice. And we'd usually have Friday off because we would have a doubleheader on Saturday and a doubleheader on Sunday. So
It's a lot of games.
A lot of games. But our season's very short. We start the last week of August with games, but 2 weeks before that we'll have our training camp. But the regular season games we finish on Thanksgiving. So it's a very, very short season, but it's go, go, go.
Intense.
Are
you training during the rest of the year?
Yeah, so that's when we'll have our team lifts. Like during the winter time, we'll have the team lifts twice a week. But we didn't have you look at some of the big NCAA schools where, the players are on meal plans and they're on very strict diets and all that type of stuff. We weren't like that. So that was a little bit harder, but we were able to make it work.
I think it's important that you shared the Canadian context.
Yeah, it's night and day, especially with baseball. It is getting to a point where the sport is growing at the university level because for us, most of the better Canadian kids would go play in the States. I had the opportunity to go play. I got a couple scholarships, but I didn't want to go because it wasn't a Division I school and I didn't think that I was going to play in the major leagues. So I figured, you know what, stay close to home, enjoy playing baseball here, and walk out of here with a university degree. But as of right now, it is getting a lot more traction where a lot of the better Canadian kids are staying in Canada, or a lot of kids are coming back to Canada to play just because they didn't like it in the States. So the league has gotten a lot better since I left. So it's really good to see, though.
So the next question I have for you is actually a question from the audience. And they asked, what motivated you to go on a weight loss journey after university? I know you answered this a little bit, but we're interested to hear more in detail.
I just didn't like what I saw in the mirror. And I just didn't feel confident in myself. And I think all the hard work I did that first year in university to lose the weight before my surgery, it just felt like it was for nothing. I just figured I needed a change, and what a better time than lockdown to go and do it. I had all the time in the world. Why not make the use of it to make myself better?
Mm-hmm. And I appreciate your honesty there, saying that appearance really was kind of that driving factor, because like I mentioned in one of the last episodes, a lot of times that is the main motivating force to get people to want to start a fitness journey. But once you start your fitness journey, you kind of realize all these other benefits. And so there's absolutely nothing wrong with having that as a motivation, as long as you're kind of having that motivation along with some other driving factors. Mm-hmm. So would you say that moment looking in the mirror, that was almost a wake-up call, and then that continued to motivate you all throughout the weight loss journey?
Yeah, it was definitely a wake-up call. And it's funny because one of my other friends, maybe a year before COVID, went through a weight loss journey himself where he lost 50 pounds as well. So that was another motivation, saying, okay, if he can do it, I can do it too. So, and just kind of keep setting those goals for myself where I wanted to lose 10 pounds every, couple months or something like that. So I got to a point where I felt great. I was looking great. I always had the dream of getting abs, and I kind of had abs, and that's kind of what I want to get back into now. I know it's a very difficult goal to achieve and to maintain, but it's like I kind of said at the beginning, even if you have the high goal and you don't, quite get it, and you get close, you're going to see some type of results at the end of it.
What you're saying, kind of shoot for the star, or no, what is it? Shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you'll land among the stars, or something like that.
That's a good saying.
Yeah. So, all right. So the next question I have is, what were the biggest challenges that you faced on your weight loss journey?
I think the biggest challenge was restricting my diet and the physical effects that it took. At the time, I was also working a manual labor job, and there were days that by lunchtime I had only had 300 calories in my system, which for someone my size with the amount of muscle that I had was just not good, and consistently doing physical labor, and there were a couple of times where I had to just sit down because I thought I was going to pass out. So just the physical impacts of, restricting my diet by that much, that was the hardest part. I wasn't overly restricting all the time. Like if I went to dinner at someone's house, I wasn't gonna push away a plate and offend anyone. So I think it was mainly just when I was on my own restricting myself. But aside from that, there was no major mental challenges or anything like that.
So the main challenge you experienced was that restriction. And my next question really piggybacks on that. And it is, knowing what you know now, what would you have done differently during your weight loss, and what were the biggest mistakes you made? We've kind of alluded to this already in terms of the restricting what you were eating to an extreme and the high amounts of cardio. And you and I have had lots of conversations about this, but I'm interested to hear your perspective and how you might have approached your weight loss journey differently if you were to do it again.
I still think I would have eaten in a calorie deficit because it just worked for me. But I would have definitely prioritized like physically making healthier, more high protein meals instead of just eating less. And so that would have been the main thing. With regards to my workouts, I don't think I would have changed anything. Like I had a pretty good routine. And then I think going forward, I should have found a way to keep portions of my workout the same rather than trying to keep the entire thing the same, because I think that's what turned me off the most, because I couldn't have the same type of workout that I was doing during COVID, and I just figured out if I'm not gonna have the same workout, there's no point.
So that all or nothing mentality.
The all or nothing mentality. So yeah, so that I definitely would have done differently, and still just prioritizing the cardio and the core. So I think I would have just kept up with that.
Yeah, I agree with you. What you said about prioritizing that high protein, maybe being in a slight calorie deficit rather than the extreme that you went to. And in terms of the workouts, I agree that the fact that you continued doing the strength training to ensure that you were maintaining the muscle and doing some cardio is definitely helpful to get you into a calorie deficit. But I would say that for the average person, a maybe more sustainable or safer approach would be to be a little bit just less extreme in general in terms of the calorie restriction and in terms of the amount of cardio.
Well, the reason why I went so extreme was because I was seeing results. I saw results quick, and that kept me motivated, because I think if I wasn't seeing the results, I probably wouldn't have continued, because I'd be like, okay, this isn't working, and I wouldn't have stuck to the process. But because I saw the results and I saw them fast, that's what kept me going.
That actually speaks to such a big challenge in the fitness space, though. What you're saying is a lot of times we're marketed these overnight results, like quick fix things, because you're seeing the physical results. But actually, the more sustainable approach is to trust the process. It's slow and steady. It takes time. But in the end, that's what's going to be more beneficial for your metabolism, for your health, is to take that more steady approach.
That makes sense. Like looking at it now, I probably would have had a different approach. And that's kind of what I've been incorporating into my weight loss now. Not going as extreme and just prioritizing the high protein and not being in a super big deficit and following a slower process.
So the next question is, what keeps you motivated now to maintain your healthy habits?
Honestly, I just don't want to go through the major weight loss again. As fun as it was, I honestly don't think I'll be able to do what I did without the lockdown, just because of work and everything like that, and just a busier schedule. I don't really have 2 hours, 3 hours of my day to set aside to work out and be active all day long. So I think just the fact that I don't want to go through it again is the biggest motivator, but also keeping up with you. Like, because you're always active, you're always in the gym.
Always active?
Always active. Yeah, so just keeping up with you. So that's another big thing as well. Also, just the competition drives me to stay active too. Even though it is men's league sports, like you still get the competitive juices flowing, especially in like the important games, and just especially if your teammates are also trying hard too. You want to keep up and you don't want to be the weak link.
All right, John. Thank you for all of your answers to all of these questions, the last question I'm going to ask you is, what's the most important thing that you've learned on your fitness journey?
The biggest things I can take away from the fitness journey is the importance of eating, the importance of stretching, and the importance of just not giving up on yourself. And even though if you're not seeing the results right away, or if there are any bumps in the road, just to keep pushing on and never giving up.
Gotta believe in yourself.
Yep.
That's a good takeaway for the audience. So
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. So those were all the questions I had for you, John. I'm going to share quickly the responses to one of the questions that I asked on Instagram. And it was, which part of John's fitness journey resonates with you the most? Most of you at 45% said finding motivation to work out during lockdown. Some of you said playing competitive sports, 27%. 18% of you said undergoing a weight loss journey, and 9% said none of these, but I'm excited to learn about his journey. So most people in the community can relate to you on some level. So hopefully after hearing your full story, they can find some elements that resonate with them.
Yeah, hopefully.
So moving on to the spicy segment of today's podcast episode, which is our fitness hot takes. Normally, we like to keep it light and positive on this podcast, but today I'm sharing some of my more controversial, unpopular opinions, and so is John. We each prepared some hot takes ahead of time, and we don't know what each other's hot takes are. And we're also going to read your hot takes based on your responses on Instagram. Relating this back to today's movement mindset, at the end of the day, you do you. There is no judgment in terms of any of these things. These are just our unfiltered opinions that you didn't ask for, so take it or leave it. This is more so for entertainment, and let's get to the hot takes.
Hot takes.
Okay, John, you can go first.
My first hot take is that yoga and Pilates is not just for girls.
Yes.
Guys can do it too and enjoy it.
Do you want to share the story about the hot Pilates class that we went to a couple months ago?
Oh, Katie and I went to a hot Pilates class, and I was the only guy in the class, and the instructor just stopped the class and said, okay, everyone, let's just take in that we have a guy here today.
Address the elephant in the room.
Yeah, let's just address the elephant in the room.
No, but she was like happy about it. She was celebrating the fact that you were there. And I was happy that you did that. And you were actually the one, it was your idea to go to the Pilates class.
Yeah, and the biggest thing why I said it's not just for girls, it's every guy that I've seen doing yoga regularly and stuff like that, they're in great shape. And why not, right? So
yeah, Pilates is very beneficial and you like it too, so.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So thank you for starting us off with the hot takes. We'll kind of go back and forth here, so I will share my hot take now. And that is, you shouldn't feel like you have to wear a sports bra and short shorts to go to the gym.
Yeah, I agree. Still have a workout without it.
Okay, I'll kind of share a bit more of my rationale for this, I guess. Because obviously if you like wearing a sports bra to the gym, go for it. Like, I'm not saying anything bad about that. But I feel like this has become like an expectation almost, that you're expected to wear this as your workout uniform based on especially social media. But if you don't feel comfortable or confident to do this, then don't. Like, I personally don't. So don't let that be a barrier to working out at the gym, because you can wear whatever you want.
That's fair. My school actually had a restriction on sleeveless shirts.
Oh yeah.
In university you had to have sleeves on your shirt.
Yeah, I think bottom line, wear whatever you want. Like, don't just feel like you need to wear something because that's what you're seeing online. That's what you see other people wear. Just wear what makes you feel confident and comfortable. Period. Mm-hmm. Okay. What's your next hot take, John?
My hot take is kind of piggybacking off the yoga one, and it's yoga can be a competition with others instead of just yourself. I know if you go to a yoga class, your instructor will say, this is a competition with yourself. Do not look at others in the class. Go at your own pace. I look at everyone in the class and I try to beat their pace.
Yeah, so basically John throws the whole spiritual practice thing out the window and just...
No, it is. I'm here to work.
Strictly there to compete.
Yeah, and win.
That's fine. I mean, if that gets you to yoga class, then...
Whatever works.
I'm all for it. I'll still be there to enjoy my shavasanas, and you can Compete.
I'm here to compete. Here to win.
Okay, my next hot take is that cycle syncing is overrated. Do you know what cycle syncing is?
No.
So, this is something that's gained a lot of traction in recent years, at least to my knowledge, but it basically means syncing your workout routine with different phases of your menstrual cycle for women. And it's gained a lot of popularity, and people are really focusing on, like, depending on the time it is in the month, doing different types of workouts. So maybe like during one part of the month, stretching would be more optimal, whereas during another part of the month, HIIT workouts are more optimal. In another part of the month, you should be weightlifting. Basically, the whole thing is there's lots of claims that cycle syncing is beneficial, but the reason this is my hot take is because there's actually very limited scientific evidence to support this, and there's so much variation from person to person. So if this works for you, great. Like, I'm not saying don't do cycle syncing, but I'm also saying if cycle syncing doesn't work for you, or you don't want to have like this specific schedule that you have to follow each month, then like don't do it, right? So at the end of the day, you do you, but I don't think you should feel pressured to cycle sync unless you feel that it genuinely works for you. Just listen to your body, prioritize consistency, and that's what's going to get you the best results.
So the next hot take, this might be the big hot take that you're definitely not going to like. It is okay to use body negativity to keep yourself motivated.
Oh my god. If you heard that, I just almost threw my laptop across the room.
Whether it is yourself or your friends, I think it can be a helpful tool. Just because you want to prove yourself wrong, you want to prove especially your friends wrong, but at the same time bettering yourself. And honestly, my friends were super supportive. They weren't like, body shaming me or anything in the beginning. A couple of jabs here and there, but they were the first ones to support me on the big weight loss journey. And just once they started seeing the results, they were so proud of me and everything like that. So it can be useful.
Okay. I mean, I disagree with you for the most part, and I know that you know that I was going to say that, but I do like what you said about bettering yourself. It's important to do this because you want to be a better version of yourself, and if that means you want to be a better version of yourself by changing your appearance or increasing your confidence, I'm on board with that. But yeah, that is a hot take saying you promote body negativity. My next hot take is that I hate the weightlifting versus Pilates debate. Like, I don't understand why there needs to be a debate of either you are a weightlifter or you're a Pilates girly. Like, I just don't get it. Are you familiar with this debate?
No, I never heard of that debate.
Okay, so again, I feel like different social media algorithms, but especially in the past couple of years, I find this has been a pretty trendy topic, and you have girls that have done weightlifting and have switched to Pilates and vice versa, and each of them claiming how one was bad for them and then they switched to the other one and now like things are better. I don't understand why it needs to be an either or thing. Like, I feel like you just need to stop fighting and just do the one that works better for you. If you want to do Pilates, don't criticize weightlifters, and if you want to lift weights, don't criticize people who do Pilates. And my other hot take is that people who do hybrid training, so like Pilates, weightlifting, running, yoga, sports, like if you're doing all these different activities, that actually makes you more fit than just sticking with one mode of training. So that's my sub hot take of the main hot take. Stop fighting. Stop fighting about Pilates versus weightlifting. I don't get it. Okay, what's your next one?
I don't know if this one's as hot of a take or just a statement.
It's just like a mild take.
I think you can agree with it though.
Okay.
I think a playoff weight gain for sports fans is a real thing.
Okay.
Just because, I don't know, around the time of playoffs, I feel like I am so much more unhealthy and gaining weight rather than the rest of the year, just because of the social aspect of the playoffs. It's just because the idea of, okay, let's go to a bar and get wings and watch the game. We'll order a pizza and watch the game. We'll go to this restaurant and watch the game. And it's just a cycle of going out to watch the game and not eating healthy when you're out, because you have all these options of wings and nachos and beer, and you're just always not eating healthy when you go to watch these games. These games are every other night, so
They're every other night, and it's not like there's one playoff season. There's like 10 different playoff seasons in a year.
Yeah, September, October, there's so much sports going on, like football, baseball, hockey. You have baseball playoffs at that point, basketball season starting, and now the hockey playoffs are in full swing. Baseball season's going on, basketball playoffs. Like, there's so much going on. So, like, you're always out to watch the game, and you're always just like, hey, let's get a beer, watch the game. And it's really hard to say no.
Every day is playoff day.
Exactly.
I agree with what you're saying, and I think it really just speaks to a societal issue in general. We live in a society where it's so easy to overconsume. If you are living a healthy lifestyle where you are physically active and eating healthy, you are an exception to the norm because it is so difficult to do that.
Yeah.
In this society.
And like, it's kind of on you, like, it's kind of on myself for the weight gain. Like, you don't need to have a pound of chicken wings when you go out. Just making better decisions when you are out. Obviously, once in a while, you know, enjoy yourself, but
everything in moderation.
Everything in moderation, but just making those healthier alternatives.
My next hot take is intuitive eating and intuitive workouts are not intuitive. I think intuitive eating and intuitive working out are great things that we can strive for. At some point in our health and fitness journey, these ideas of eating intuitively, working out intuitively, listening to your body, listening to your body's hunger cues, listening to how sore your body feels and whether you feel prepared to work out or not, that's all good. And I think that is something that should be kind of like a goal that we end up getting to at some point in our journey. And it kind of indicates that we have a healthy relationship with food and fitness. I think this is a horrible tip for beginners because when you're first starting out, you have no idea what eating intuitive is. Like, it's not an intuitive thing to do. You may need to track your food intake. You may need to follow a structured workout program because by doing that, you're going to learn the skills, gain the knowledge, so that way eventually you can develop that relationship with food and fitness where you're moving and eating intuitively. So yeah, what do you think?
I agree. Like, you have to start very simple and very structured to build your foundation.
And kind of have some guidance maybe.
Have some guidance because there are a lot of people that are out to help you and they've been doing this for a long time, and you can learn something from everyone, especially in the early stages. Like, that's where you build your foundation as someone who's going to be in the gym or living a healthy lifestyle. Start those healthy habits in the beginning, and it's a lot easier to keep going.
Kind of like what you're saying, the hardest part is starting out. So when you're starting out, make it as easy as possible, which might be like following something to a T. Mm-hmm. And then over time, you can have a little bit more flexibility once you learn more. Mm-hmm. What is your last hot take?
My last hot take is I agree with the do whatever it takes mentality. I don't know if you don't like that one or you do like that one because it's kind of on the body negativity because it kind of ties into that a bit. But essentially what the take is do whatever it takes to keep yourself motivated, whether it's sports, physically looking better, feeling better, just whatever keeps you going, do it. Even if your motivation isn't the greatest, the results you're getting are still positive. So I think, you know, you'll find different ways to motivate yourself too, because even if you have a negative motivation, I still feel like you're not going to have that same motivation throughout your entire journey. So you just got to keep finding new ways to stay motivated. Honestly, whatever it takes to keep you motivated, do it.
So push yourself.
Yeah, push yourself. That's another big thing. It's like some people are like, they don't want to push themselves. They don't want to battle through. But I think that's kind of what separates it. I remember showing you this fitness influencer that I have seen over the years. He's very intense. And the one thing that I always take away from his videos is you need to leave the gym with nothing left. You need to give every single ounce of your energy in your workout, and you need to be drained by the time you're done. And then you come back and you do it again. And just always fighting through and just being relentless on your mind sometimes. That's where you're really going to get the results.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, that we need to push ourselves, and this journey is not comfortable. If it was comfortable, everyone would do it. If it was the easy option, everyone would do it. But it is challenging, and you do need to push yourself in order to grow and improve. What you're saying is a hot take because there is a lot of information out there saying take it easy, don't go too hard on yourself, but I do think that sometimes we need that push to be like, no, try harder, do better, because that's what will motivate us to grow. But we also need to kind of like remember this hot take, which I agree with to an extent, in addition to like still letting yourself rest. Like,
yeah,
just
like,
because
don't
you're
go
going
7 days a week to the gym and
Yeah.
push yourself to the absolute max. Like,
Mm-hmm.
whenever you are in the gym, whether it's 1 day a week, 2 days a week, 3 days a week,
You're giving it your all.
You're giving your all when you're there.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I also feel like personally, I usually like to leave like a little bit left in the tank, but again, to each their own. Do what works for you.
Mm-hmm.
My last hot take is that healthy dessert recipes are overrated. There are a couple problems with these healthy dessert recipes. The first one is they don't taste as good. Like, you can't argue with that.
Yeah, they suck.
Don't tell me that your frozen banana smoothie is supposed to taste like ice cream, because it doesn't taste like ice cream. You didn't make ice cream. You made a frozen banana.
Sucks.
And blended it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It looks good on Instagram, but it
a lot of times they don't taste that good. Yeah. They look nicer than they taste.
Yeah.
And then the other issue I have with this is you can feel like you're missing out on other foods if you're only restricting yourself to the healthier options. I think there's a time and place for these healthy dessert options, and maybe on a random Tuesday night, I might actually prefer a healthy cookie over a regular cookie. But with that being said, the normal versions are not off limits to me, and usually that's what I eat because I usually don't find the time in a week to bake myself a batch of healthy cookies. Like, it's not going to happen. Like I said a couple times before in this episode too, just everything in moderation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so those are our hot takes. I came up with a bunch more, but I'm cutting myself off because otherwise we've already been recording for 2 hours. We would be here for maybe 5 hours. So let me know if you want to hear more hot takes in a future episode, because I definitely have a lot of hot takes. So to wrap things up, we are going to read your hot takes. So the ones that were submitted by members of the Always Active community when I asked on Instagram. Hot take number 1, gym memberships should come with an etiquette pamphlet.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree with this too. I think gym etiquette is dead.
It is dead.
I could do a whole episode about this, honestly, and actually the next episode I'm doing is a beginner's guide to the gym. So in this, I will share some gym etiquette tips. And you know what? It could actually be helpful because maybe some people are just unaware of gym etiquette and they're just unknowingly making these mistakes. But if you know what is socially acceptable and you're not doing it, then shame on you.
Yeah.
You're making the gym a worse place for all of us. All right. That was a good hot take. Next hot take is lifting weights will not make you too bulky for women.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with this too. I think all women should be lifting weights. It's important. It annoys me that this myth hasn't been busted yet because I feel like it's still so common that people will be like, oh, I don't want to lift weights. I'm going to look bulky. I think people need to understand that even if you tried to look like a bodybuilder, do you know how much work they have to do in order to build those muscles? For the average person, that's not an attainable thing unless they're intentionally trying to do it. So yeah, I just think the whole argument of women not wanting to lift weights because they're going to look bulky, it doesn't make any sense. This next hot take, I actually forgot that this was submitted. The hot take is cardio is so overused, people think that's the key to weight loss.
It worked for me. I feel like it was a good part of my routine. It still helped in a way. I feel like I didn't overdo it though. I did a spin class. Like that was my main source of cardio, but it was a 45-minute spin class. It's not like I ran a marathon. It's also like a warm-up too. My body was warm and I went out and did weights. So from what you've told me, it's not the major key to weight loss, but for me, it helped.
Yeah, and you were lifting weights, which was still important. So you weren't solely doing cardio. There's nothing wrong with cardio. Cardio is good. It's good for your heart health. There's lots of benefits. But I feel like what this person is saying is it's overused for weight loss and like it's not the only part of it. The very last hot take that was submitted. Supplements are overrated. You can get all of that through Whole Foods and people don't realize that.
I agree with that. I never really took any supplements, even throughout my weight loss and anything like that. Never really learned much about them. So and I never had like a desire to use them.
Yeah, and I think maybe some supplements can be helpful, especially if like your doctor has recommended it or you've done blood work, but I think it's important to just take the supplements that you actually need and stop buying random supplements that are promoted by people online. A lot of them aren't necessary, and realistically, you should be able to get most things just through your diet. Again, also recognizing that eating a whole foods diet isn't necessarily accessible to everyone, so maybe supplements in that case can be helpful. But generally speaking, I'm more so talking about, and I'm sure this person is more so talking about, the bogus supplements online that people are just wasting their money on and they're not necessary.
But you should buy the supplements if they're promoted by the Always Active podcast.
Yeah. With that being said, use code KatieActive at checkout on leanfit.ca for 20% off your next purchase. Thank you for listening to this episode. I hope you learned something and feel inspired by John's story. John, do you have any final thoughts?
Just thanks for having me. I had a great time.
Thank you for joining. I'm excited to share this episode with everyone. And John, this was your initiation, so I'm interested to hear everyone's feedback, see if they'd like to hear you back on the pod, and I would gladly have you back on.
I'll gladly be back on.
Amazing. And I also just want to say John has been so supportive of this podcast, and I'm so grateful that he was brave enough to be the first ever guest in the hot seat. So thank you again, everyone, for listening, and we will talk to you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Always Active podcast. Remember to subscribe to this podcast, and I would be grateful if you could please leave a review. Also, be sure to follow the podcast on Instagram at all.ways.active so that your responses can be featured in future episodes. See you next time.